Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I will be making a Knex roller coaster that my friend sent me videos of. It is a RMC hybrid coaster, about 100 feet in height, with some pretty fun elements going towards the end. So he sent me some videos of this ride. I'll probably play them on screen while this very high tech, high speed video is playing of me designing the coaster in FVD. You can see here I'm using a geometric section to try to get the profiling into the barrel roll down drop quite right. This took me a little bit of time to get to my liking, and there I finally decided to add a turnaround because for some reason I forgot to do that before the lift hill, so I will be adding it there. But overall, this was one of his first coaster recreation, or not recreation, just a creation. It only has a few selection of elements, such as, I think it's barrel roll down drop, goes into a camelback, and that goes into a wave turn, which goes into a barrel roll, into a turn into the brakes. You can see here I'm trying to get the profiling of the pitch of the drop correctly before I work on roll, which I'm doing here. I was cross-referencing this with Twisted Timbers POVs and a picture that I had sort of head-on of the barrel roll down drop of Twisted Timbers that I will play overhead in the post-production if I remember to do that. This iteration was a little steep, but you can see it's coming along pretty good so far. It needs really this first part was the most challenging part of getting that barrel roll down drop ready, was making that transition in. If you watch an actual barrel roll down drop, you'll see that most of the roll is actually over before you start dropping. So in order to do this, I think I end up switching. You can see me there playing around with the center of the roll. I think I ended up settling to set that in the beginning. You can see there I go cross-referencing the profiling of the barrel roll down drop with the Twisted Timbers picture that I got. And I didn't like how much lead in it gave into the drop, so I changed that a little bit. Here we can see we're still working on this part of the ride. But anyway, more about the Knex side of this coaster. This was his second coaster that he built. He discussed it a lot in his more recent videos about this particular coaster. There was only 3 available angles in total from the ride. Oh no, my thing just crashed. Oh, there it goes. There are only 3 angles of the ride really available to me, so oh, there I go with the Twisted Timbers POV. So yeah, I didn't have much to really go off of profiling wise, but it was enough to get the chain of elements ready to go. I did have to speed this video up about 6 times speed in post-processing, which I'm now commentating over, because otherwise this video would be over an hour and a half long. I don't think anybody really wants to sit through an hour and a half of FVD clips, let alone 15 minutes of me rambling on about FVD clips. You can see here I am finally satisfied with the barrel roll down drop after cross-referencing it with that Twisted Timbers POV. There's initially a little bit too much space to go off of before the lift hill, so I decided to do a little speed hill into the camelback before I eventually realized that I just have that random straight section there after the turn, which looking back on it would have maybe been a little bit helpful for a transfer track, because this is the first No Limits coaster I've made that doesn't actually include a transfer track. even though it can theoretically run 2 trains. I think that's why I settled on. That camelback started off way too steep, so here I try to go and fix it. Overall, camelbacks are pretty easy, so it didn't really give me too much trouble. Now we are profiling the turn. The turn does go up slightly, so you can see me fiddling around with that roll section. I eventually settle on this. Well, I do change it later, but for now I'm happy with this. I didn't really like that harsh snap out of the wave turn. So I decided to reprofile it. Speaking of that roll, we are now getting to that very soon. After I finally decide on the banking that I want on this wave turn, which is not this. I fiddle around with several designs, but I ultimately want it to be not too whippy coming out of it because we are immediately going to have to go into a roll. And there's not a whole bunch of room between this hill and the lift hill. So the roll has to be rather rapid, and I don't want it to be too overkill. But here you can see the first iteration of it. I didn't like it too much, and plus it went a little bit too far. So with that in mind, I tried making it so we end the wave turn at like a 90-degree angle. So that way the roll has to roll for physically less amount of time. However, I really couldn't get the exit of the wave turn to be perfectly at 90 degrees or really even close. So I went back to doing just a flat piece of track going into the roll. I got a little banking off in the end, I think. But yes, that's the story of the roll. So yeah, this is a new type of format for my channel. A totally unscripted rant. So let me know how you guys like it. If it doesn't flop like my last commentary video, I might consider making a little more commentary videos like this, where it's just an unscripted rant instead of like an organized thought thing. But you can see version 4, 5, version 6, I think we're on now of the roll. This one wasn't much better than the other ones. It's a little high, but it's really not going to get too perfectly close to the ground. I forget which roll I end up deciding on. I think it might be this one. You could see me there editing that roll right after the camelback into the wave turn allows me to shift the whole structure sideways a little bit, so I did that. Also, in order to make a little bit of additional room for the helix, I decided to increase the radius on that turnaround directly after the station, which caused some interesting workarounds in the no limit side of things. But yeah, here you can see pretty good roll. Oh, there we go, changing it again. That one didn't really work out well, but I think I end up reverting to that. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm just fiddling with the exact positioning of the roll. Looks like I just stopped working there for a second. But you can see, I think this might be the final roll that I decided on. And I've said that like 5 times already, but I genuinely don't remember which one I did. I filmed this 4 days ago, so. But now we're starting work on the helix going up. This was a very interesting one. I had to actually, in the end, I had to add just brakes after there. So that way I can make the helix a bit tighter going into the final brake run. You can see that's how I want to end it with that little spike, and now it's just all, or not really a spike, more like a snap. And now it's just all aligning it with their I ended up having to increase the G-forces. There I go, modifying the radius of that. I realize I can't make it too huge, because if I modify the radius of that too much, then it's going to be like under the camelback would be like on top of the lift hill. So I tried using some laterals at some point for this final snap, but they didn't really end up working. It just sort of, it was basically impossible to align it. So I decided to set it to 5 Gs at some point with the intention of adding a break afterwards, just to make the helix a bit tighter geometrically. And that worked fine in the end. You can see here, I think I finally decided to get it. Just doing some fine tuning of the ride. A little bit of lateral force there, you can see. And here goes the final thing, the little curve to connect those two sections together. And I think with that, we are going to just save it, and we are almost ready to import it into FVD. Just doing a quick practice run, navigating into the save file, launching Nolimits, and we are officially in the Nolimits stage. And it seems like I just waited on this home screen for a little bit. All right, here I go. Nolimits split. Let's see how it ends up. You can see I have a very organized Nolimits file system. And for the coaster colors, I'm just picking dark red track, natural steel supports, trying to find a good wood color with those dark green trains. I also want to point out that I did heartline this coaster for the first time. Someone pointed that out to me in one of the videos that I could actually heartline the coaster, and it's made all the world of a difference in these designs. You can see there I had to fiddle around with the nodes heading into the brake run, where they have to be like, in order to keep that station flat. See here I'm adding some drive tires in order to propel the train around that bend. It ends up working eventually, just depumping some vertices in the layout. Just make the G-force a bit more subtle. You can see there that bend makes 6 Gs, so I added a couple brakes. But in the end, I only intended for this to run one train because it really doesn't have a transfer track, but I got a bit carried away and decided to just add 2. I also, for some unknown reason, ended up with handrails on both sides of the track. I never actually fixed those, it's such a minor detail. And I also did have to lower the coaster a little bit after the first round of supports in order to just make it a bit closer to the ground. You can see me here removing some supports on the barrel roll down drop because they do intersect with the train. That's just the fault of Nolimits. I wish they had a feature where you could, or a update where they would make it so supports don't intersect the track, but here we are. And I'm adding a pond and some trees, which is my favorite thing. I added way too many trees with about 6 Ys, and it made the game super laggy. I am not seeing the lag on the post-processing end, but it was definitely there in-game, so I cut back on those trees a little bit. You can see me here just doing some slight modifications really to the track, and without further ado, I think we're nearly done with this coaster. I'm just doing a quick POV test, and I think I decided to get rid of a couple more trees because it was still pretty laggy. Just no more trees than really necessary. I'm not really sure why I unfroze the coaster there. Oh, yep, adding a second train, I think. Also slowing down that brake run. Yeah. I think the train color actually works really well with the track. I was getting some off-ride footage here. I'm not really sure when this ends or if we really have anything more important to do afterwards, but other than that, I think we are nearly done with the commentary section. I think everybody's happy about that one. If you like the video, make sure to like. And if you really enjoyed it, then make sure to subscribe. And that will be all. And I will send you to the POV and the off-road footage shots. Bye.